Hello there, and welcome to another special episode of the SEO Ranking podcast called the SEO Agency Rollercoaster. So imagine you're on a roller coaster ride, but instead of crazy loops and insane drops, it's all about the turbulent world of SEO agencies. We're going at full speed into the trenches of SEO agencies and pros to shine a spotlight on the daily hurdles, hiccups, and high fives that come along with the territory. You must be this tall to ride this blend of real talk, a dash of humor, and a whole lot of insider insights. If you're into keeping your finger on the pulse of SEO, hit that subscribe button. Stay in the loop, stay informed, and maybe even crack a smile or two along the way. My name is Andrew Zarudi, and I'm part of the marketing team over at SEO Ranking, and your co-host on this adventure. I'm all buckled up to roll with the ups and downs of SEO together with my co-host, Chris Simmance, the co-founder of the OMG Center, your digital agency growth accelerator. Great to have you.
How are you doing? Did you strap in before that roller coaster of an introduction?
I was checking up for half an hour before we went in. I'm all buckled up and good to go.
So there we go. There was some twists and turns, ups and downs on that intro. I'm loving it.
Yeah, the instructor said we're good to go. Everything has been checked. The roller coaster is oiled up and good to go.
Excellent. Thanks for the intro. I'm Chris Simmance. I'm the founder of the OMG Center. We're a digital agency growth accelerator. I come from a past of running a couple of digital agencies, threw myself off of one roller coaster onto another, and learned quite a lot along the way. I've known our guest Kevin for quite a while now in many different environments, whether it be at events, whether it be awards, of which Kevin will probably touch on in a bit, and just generally in the industry for quite a while. Kevin has an awful lot to offer the agency leadership end of the industry. Welcome to the podcast, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew and Chris. Really appreciate it, and yeah, good to be involved.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and Resignal.
Yeah, so I've been involved myself in SEO since 2003 and running agencies from a freelance day of 2006 onwards into an agency kind of from that point forward. And Resignal has been operating since 2012. And yeah, we're kind of e-commerce SEO specialists, but with a large background in SEO strategy. So working with clients like ASICS, Fatface, Under Armour, and yeah, all focused around driving organic growth.
Awesome. And how did you get onto this roller coaster? Where was the beginning? How did you fall into it? Did you queue up?
Yeah, I did fall into it, I would say. Not sure I had the seatbelt over in terms of like getting started. It was very much, I worked on a placement year whilst at uni at a web design agency, and this is in 2003, who had just got into offering SEO services to their clients. So they did web design, web development. And that was just a taster that kind of got me quite excited about kind of building my own websites, getting affiliate income. I actually left that agency to go back and finish my final year of uni, which was always the plan. But I left full of ideas and yeah, kind of just curiosity in terms of where SEO was going, because 2003 was very early. Google was only 98, and I wouldn't say I was like first generation SEO, but probably not too far behind. It felt a Wild West sort of days of everyone trying to figure out what was going on, and Google was really making a breakthrough at that point in time. Yeah, it is exciting. It was changing quite a lot. In some respects, it was easy, but at the same time, it's brand new. So it's like you're learning what to do and where to go with things. And I really took that and carved out a career from there, which I think was great, because my previous track would have been kind of more down the web development route, which I kind of had some skills for, but certainly not quite a passion for. And just doing something like SEO, it's just brand new and exciting. Just kind of jumped in with both feet, and then probably haven't looked back too much since.
And how did you find, the beginnings of your agency life? There's a pretty long, given 2003 onwards, story of where you got to where you are now. But how did you start the agency? What was the first ride of the roller coaster a lot like?
It was an evolution of in 2006 I did a year out, so I went to Australia for a year. And my plan was to actually continue working for the company that I was at previously, but that didn't work out for time zone reasons and all sorts. It just didn't seem possible, that because I was building websites at that point in time just for affiliate income and like a range of different topics, that paid my way around Australia. But alongside that, I managed to, I set up a blog and I just wrote about all of the things that I was learning at the time. And to be honest, it was more of a journal writing for an audience of one, being myself, that this is the stuff that I'm learning. I want to document it and continue that journey. And I quickly found that I wasn't the only ones with those problems. Other people were learning from me as well as learning from myself. And kind of like I absorbed lots of information from the early days of like Rand Fishkin on the Moz blog and stuff like that, where search engine watch forums, that type of thing. But yeah, that started to build an audience of people that were interested in my writing, and from there made inquiries to work with me as a consultant. So I don't think it was a grand plan. It was just, okay, well, people are interested in this. I was a bit surprised at first, and then realized, okay, well, I could do some freelance work, and what I'm doing for my own affiliate sites, I could sell to other people in the form of consulting and help them as well. So it kind of definitely grew organically, and certainly wouldn't say there was a grand plan of I'm going to grow an agency. It was very much, I'm going to get traffic to a website. And then alongside that, I found ways to help other people.
Kevin, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned at the beginning that it's in e-com, you focus on e-com. How did you find that niche? How did you realize that this is something that you need? Because I've been looking through the internet. What are people talking about in terms of e-commerce, in terms of SEO? And one of the biggest challenges is for people to understand, why would they go for to help e-coms if they can start their own e-com? Why not just go for local businesses and continue helping them out? So just to help our listeners understand, how did you make that decision to go into a niche? Were you balancing anything? Like weighing your options? It was really curious for me to understand the niche, the specialization of Resignal.
That decision came relatively late. I would say it came through narrowing down what are we really good at, and who are the clients that we serve, and what are the clients where we get the best results that we want more of. I guess there's two ways around of doing it. One is you pick a niche and kind of just focus on that, and same with like service offering as well. For us, we started as quite a local agency in Oxfordshire. We served brands like Audley Travel, Miele, Oxford University Press, and those types of companies that were big companies within Oxford, but not quite. I mean, they are national and global companies, but it was kind of like their headquarters were in Oxfordshire. And then once we realised, okay, well, if we can work with companies like that, we can work with bigger companies across the UK, and then kind of expanding in terms of like Europe and globally. And that led to us kind of working with brands. I would say we've always been traditionally B2C. So across those years, our client base has traditionally been, I would say, e-commerce, travel and finance, and probably in any particular order at different times. We've done quite a lot of work in those three sectors. And I think in 2020, we then started to realize, okay, well, travel for obvious reasons people weren't investing. People aren't going on holiday. People, even if they are going on holiday, they were kind of using up air miles and not really spending real money at that point in time. So there was a lack of investment in marketing from the travel brands. Financial services, we'd started to see a slowdown from, but had clients in that space. And I think we just realized that actually 80% of our clients at that point in time were e-commerce brands, and pretty much all of the growth and the inquiries that were coming to us were also in that space. And we've always had pretty strong case studies within retail, whether it's going back to like the very early days of Miele would have been 2007 maybe, and then through to kind of a large number of retailers. At Oka, we've did a lot of work with in the past. That's led into ASICs we've worked with for the last 6 years, and just building more and more of a reputation of doing great work in that space has just led to more and more inquiries from those types of brands, to the point that we said, okay, well, let's focus on this part because it's really working for us. And we want more of it, essentially.
There's really something to be said for once you do get into that niche that you choose, whatever it might well be, staying in focus on that. Andrew, what in terms of like the SE ranking cohort of agency leaders do you think is quite important to them when it comes to like deciding how to niche down? What kind of conversations are you sort of aware of, or pains do you think agency leaders kind of have when they're looking at whether they should or shouldn't niche? And is it an evolution a bit like Kevin talked through?
No, a lot of people just want to make a decision based on off of somebody else's experience from the internet. That is the stuff that I've been seeing. A lot of people are just saying, well, just try opening up an e-commerce store and then see where it goes from there. But from what I heard from Kevin, it sounds so like a naturally built path. It just made a lot of sense just to go in this way. You had a lot of clients, so some dropped off for COVID reasons. Finance sector had other reasons, and so this is a natural path. But
the old adage that only really works when you say it with the American turn of phrase is the riches are in the niches. And often if you specialize, you can command higher rates because you are better at a certain smaller pool of stuff. But if you're thinking about niching down in an agency point of view, just remember that there's a lot of websites out there. There's a lot of businesses out there. And if you just focus, let's say, on you only focus on football teams, there are millions of them. If you only focus on leisure, there are millions of leisure brands, and they're not just the giant brands that everyone knows of. So once you niche, you can speak their language when it comes to proposals, marketing, sales, onboarding, the whole reporting process. Everything can focus on that. I guess, Kevin, and it's one of the questions I've got that this is kind of leading into, I suppose, is that when you kind of niche into a subject area, I guess it makes it slightly easier for you to predict revenue and cash flow as well as seasonal demands on those businesses. Was that an immediate thing you noticed, or was that, again, sort of after a year or so of being focused on an area you kind of picked up on?
Yeah, so do you mean in terms of like forecasting for a client, or more the impact that it has to us as an agency?
Yeah, so most e-com businesses, for the most part, have the key selling dates in the year. Most of them would probably have purchasing dates that are key in the year as well, from a supply chain point of view, but also from a supplier point of view. So I'm guessing that your marketing and your sales are pretty aligned to their annual processes. But also when it comes to reporting and supporting clients, there are peaks and troughs in how much you need to produce for a client in a year as well.
I think that's right, but equally, it's a long buy-in cycle. Certainly, like the clients, we're not really working with local clients. We are working with kind of maybe funded startups, but typically it's like medium clients all the way up to kind of like the enterprise brands. And our model has always been to have a small group of quite large clients that we work with and grow with. And then equally, we've got a relatively lean but strong, experienced team that serves them. For that, I think you have to accept there's longer buy-in cycles from the client side. Procurement are often involved. Yeah. And it's not, even if we knew, okay, there's a pitch that's coming up in March, if we were to do our marketing in February so that we can catch them at the right time, I mean, that sounds like a good idea, but there's more to it than that. And I think it's the actual nurturing of having good content that's shared, having events that we run and meeting people and kind of just keeping people in that almost like top of funnel from an agency sales and marketing perspective is really important, because it's often not, okay, well, we're ready to work with you now, so give us a proposal and we'll start next week. It doesn't work like that. Or if it does, it's very rare. I quite like it when it does, but it's normally hard work to get on the radar. So from that perspective, our marketing is almost always on. It's just being aware that, okay, well, some people are ready right now, whereas if you contact people and in November, in the run up to Black Friday with Christmas afterwards in e-commerce, I wouldn't expect too much of a response. But equally, if they're aware of you, they might be ready to pick up that conversation kind of once the new year starts. So it's always good to be front of mind. It's just kind of when people act on that, and it is seasonal, but those seasons, I think since COVID, those seasons have seemed to change a little bit. We had a couple of summers ago, I think we had a very slow start to the year, and then a very kind of like everyone was catching up with themselves in summer and starting to spend money. 2024 is an election year in the UK and the US. I think there might be some caution on budgets to start the year. I think that might hopefully get spent as we get closer to those events, and maybe it's a bit more obvious which direction things are going and people just want to spend money. But again, it's like you have to be patient and play the long game. Yeah.
And let's keep geopolitics out of this, because there's an awful lot going on in the world right now. So let's get on the roller coaster, Kevin, Andrew. We're starting from the beginning of the agency. ups and downs, twists and turns. We're all moving around, we're all flying everywhere.
Sounds like January in general.
So over the course of all the years, there will undoubtedly have been some great ups, some great downs, or not so great downs, but great in terms of scale maybe. Twists, turns, things you weren't expecting. Have you ever wanted to get off?
I'd be lying if I said no. I think there's several
honesty is the best policy,
where
Kevin.
Both ways it would be, yeah, and there's times where I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know if I can do this for much longer, and there's other times where I'm like, I could do this forever. And that is the whole roller coaster, right? It's like, okay, this is amazing. Really is. I never want to quit. And I think the reality is probably somewhere in between. If you take what's the average, and overall I certainly enjoy it, and I wouldn't be doing it now if I didn't. But yeah, there's times where it's like, oh wow, that's like double whammy or triple whammy or whatever, and it feels like, yeah, sometimes you have to pick yourself off the floor and go again. So yeah, there's certainly moments like that where it does feel like, okay, well, do I want to continue? And I know a lot of other agency owners, and I think, again, if we're being honest, I think everyone, once you've been in it a certain amount of time, not every single day you do this is going to be rosy. So yeah, but I think that's, again, acknowledging that journey and accepting that you've got to give it your best shot.
What is keeping you on the agency roller coaster? Because maybe you've acquired enough skills to go for e-com, just start your own business, drop shipping business, whatever, and just earn money on the side. Just what keeps you in the game? Because you said like the emotions, obviously you can keep doing it forever. Though, why am I doing this at all? But what keeps you coming back?
I actually really like the agency side of running a business. I think I got into it certainly because I found that I had a skill in SEO. And I think I've learned to really enjoy actually the agency leadership side of, okay, let's build a great team. Let's empower the team to get great results for our clients. Let's win new clients, et cetera, et cetera. And it's quite often that's not the stuff that gets you into an agency in the first place, but there's almost a sink or swim time of where you either embrace it or you go back. And I mean, I've definitely had thoughts before of, I could be a consultant, I could leverage my skills and build a brand. There's all sorts of things like that in terms of alternative routes. But ultimately, yeah, I've learned to love that agency side of actually feeling like I'm growing a company. And it's less about the digital marketing or SEO specialism. It's more about how do you face those challenges? And it is the good and bad. You have to kind of face it in a similar way of, this is part of that ride.
Like running an agency, you hit the nail on the head here. And I speak to so many agency leaders every week, every month. And something I learned very quickly is that we're almost all the same when it comes to you start your agency because you're good at a thing, but actually learning how to run the business and how to be a leader is actually the thing that ends up being, well, either the death of the agency if you're not very good at those things, or the reason you stay on, because you learn to be more than just an SEO or just a PPC person or something like that. And it is fun and it does keep you on, doesn't it?
It does. And I think ultimately, like, again, using the roller coaster analogy, I think I've learned over the years, having come through some serious issues where there were times where I was like, I'm not sure we're going to see the other side of this. And we have. And I think that's given me a certain level of resilience in the sense of I wasn't that worried about COVID. We acted on it and we did what we needed to do. But I think my first reaction was like, we've come through much worse than this. I'm not going to let COVID ruin us. And I think, like I say, that roller coaster analogy is I've realized that after a while, the roller coaster is going, but it is on a track and there is an end to this. And I think it's going to be okay. We know how to ride those waves now in terms of if things are bad, we know we've done it. We've gone lean. I don't want to do that. Yeah. No one wants to do that, but we've done it and we've come out of the other side better for it. And equally, when times are good, sure, we'll ride the wave, but we're probably not going to get too carried away of ourselves. It's kind of, again, it's part of that journey. And I have often said, I'm most worried when everything is going well because I just know through experience if you got 9 things in a row that's going well, chances are, and the odds are the 10th one's not going to be so good. But the flip side is also true. You've got to keep your head up when things aren't going so well and turn the corner.
Yeah, look at things on aggregate, I tend to think. So from a present day point of view, looking at, from an advice point of view to other agency leaders, what is it that ReSignal do or have done that help you kind of manage those unexpected changes and challenges that happen in the agency, but also in the wider industry sense? How do you, when you see a down or a twist or a turn on that roller coaster, what is it that you've done better or you would advise someone else to do?
I think one thing that was a big turning point for us, and it's probably going back 5 or 6 years, is we had a point where we had a lot of change within the agency. We had a share buyback and we had to go, I think, from about 16, maybe even 18 people down to about 6. So that was a really tough period for us. And from there, we also rebranded kind of during that time, maybe a bit before that time. But yeah, there's certain things that we decided, okay, well, once we've gone lean, I wanted to go back to, we've got a solid team of 6 and we want to do things in the right way. And then I feel like we can grow again. And at a team of 18 beforehand, I felt like it was an absolute juggling act where we were trying to paper over the cracks, and we'll end up focusing on the issues rather than the opportunities. And one of the things we did alongside a non-exec director is we wrote on a whiteboard, what are the 3 big things we want to focus on? And we had number 1, excellence, number 2, retention, number 3, growth. And then we said, okay, well, let's put a plan in for each of these. And excellence was, let's deliver excellent work to our clients. So it needs to get results. Obviously, at times we need to innovate our service and look at what we need to do, that if it's not working, what do we need to do to improve that? But ultimately, what we're here to do is to serve our clients and get results and a return for their budget. If we do that, we'll retain those clients. And I've certainly experienced that retention is growth, in the sense of if you don't retain your clients, new biz is largely pointless, or certainly definitely found it a bit demoralizing when you're winning a lot of new business, but you're equally losing the same amount. Been there, I've done that. The third point was, okay, let's grow on top of that. So once we're doing good work for our clients, we're retaining them, let's then use that to grow. And that both with those existing clients, because they're happy with what we're doing, so there's opportunities to do more. But then that turns into case studies, award entries, word of mouth referrals. That means that we'll amplify everything that we're doing that's good and use that to our advantage when it comes to attracting new clients and growing with them as well.
I wanted to talk a bit about AI because I was listening to your previous podcast that you guys did on the And We Have an Office Dog.
World famous now, Andrew.
Yep, for sure. And Kevin, you were mentioning that you are working on something AI, and you did not share any details at that point. Maybe you are ready to share something at this point. If not, we just wanted to find out, what is your approach to all the AI developments? Are you taking something into account to process any data of your clients? Just whatever you want to share in terms of using AI to sort of leverage your position?
We've created an internal tool that helps us to turn write content briefs from a content strategy. And what we found was previously our team was spending around 15 minutes per page on average, taking that keyword research and then writing a content brief for the writers. And we've managed to create an AI tool that, again, would still review this from a strategist perspective, but it takes a lot of that legwork out of, okay, well, let's use AI to develop the writer brief so that we know, based on the rules of how we would optimize that content, what to send to the writers and how they can develop and build out our content from there. And we're not using it for content production itself. I feel like my personal view on that is, I think a lot of people will be using that, and I think there's short-term gains to be had, but I also think stuff like that is quite a risky game to get involved in. So for us, it's very much, let's use it to be more efficient as a team. And if there's stuff we were doing that wasn't the best use of time, and we can use technology to help make ourselves more efficient, then we can use that time to better effect in other areas. So that's one of the key things we've been building out and starting to use with clients that has certainly been helpful for the team.
And with the AI side of things, and I know that every single podcast seems to talk about this a lot in the industry, and there's a very good reason for it. What is it that, like, you must have had clients asking you, can you confirm you are not, or you are using AI for A, B, C, X, Y, Z scenarios? A few agencies that I've been speaking to recently have been asked as part of a pitch or a proposal, or even a bit like a privacy statement on a website, to have a AI statement to talk about what they use it for and what they do not use it for, and to sort of draw those lines so the client either understand it, that it's going to be used for certain things, or a kind of they feel safer when it comes to, if you're generating lots and lots of content briefs and things. Have you been asked a lot about that with clients? And if so, what have you been kind of doing to alleviate concerns and so on?
So we've got two examples of clients at the other end of the scale. One is very much in their contract. We don't want you to use AI under any circumstances, unless approved by our team. So again, I think showing them the case of how that works for creating writer briefs, they're okay with, because they understand it. They certainly don't want us to be going away and creating content using AI. Whereas we have another client at the other end of the scale who is, we want to see your innovation roadmap that shows that over the next 12 months, quarter by quarter, you're working towards becoming more efficient, having used AI. So we have quarterly business reviews with our clients, and each of these QBRs would have kind of an update on, okay, well, this is what we're building out, and these are areas that we think that we can provide efficiencies to you on. And again, they'll be, in both cases, they're fully aware. I think what clients are concerned about is what was previously done by a person is replaced by technology, and then there's a drop in quality. And like I say, like from a Google algorithm perspective, even if that content that is AI written works right now and it gets you results between now and the next 6 months, I think there would be a lot of concern over, well, Google's just going to update its algorithm and figure out that's AI driven, and then your rankings are going to drop. And I completely understand that concern. So yeah, transparency is key. If you use it, you have to be clear with the client how you're using it. It's not a replacement of like for like in terms of what you were doing previously. It's just showing that there's efficiencies behind it.
Absolutely. And looking into that from a future point of view, you've built up a fantastic reputation for your agency, not just with the awards you've won, but also the clients you've retained. And you mentioned excellence and retention as part of that 3 things on your whiteboard. What kind of advice to like an aspiring agency leader looking at either e-com or another niche would you suggest that they look at as like a build your reputation in this kind of way? What is it that, don't suggest awards because you'll beat them all, but in other areas?
I think it's one of those of like, the advice for everyone would be different, because it's just take what you're good at. And certainly if it's picking a niche, where are your best results? Where's your best work? How do you do more of that? And how do you amplify it? So for us, I think we've won clients off the back of certainly having strong case studies and then awards that have got on the radar of other companies that they've seen we've got a track record in that space, and they want us to do something similar for them. There's one that's about kind of leadership and how to operate as a team, which is very good. There's another one that is about marketing, and the idea is, I think there's kind of something like 25 to 30 different channels of where you can win customers from. And they put it onto almost like a dartboard. So you have, okay, well, you narrow those 25, let's say, down to your top 5, and then just try those 5 things and like put a bit of budget behind each of them. And quite often what you find, and this isn't just for agencies, it's companies in general, but you normally have one channel that works really well for you. It's quite rare that, I think the companies that go wrong quite often, and again, we've been here ourselves, but try to do 10 things and they're average at all of them. I think the ones that actually really make this work for them, they nail one thing and they do it really well. And then you can build outwards. So this approach is like, if you think of a dartboard, you've got the outer ring and those are the 5 that you test with. And then the bullseye is, okay, well, this is the one that works the best. Let's double down on that. And then you could build outwards. So for us, I think it's probably been, let's have strong case studies that turn into award entries. And then over time, we've then looked at, okay, how do we turn that into thought leadership? How do we run events around some of the things we're doing? But it isn't as connected.
And I urge anyone who is listening to this now to have a look at the Re-Signal website for examples of how an e-commerce case study turned into an award entry and an award win. but also you run a conference called Resignal, called Recommerce, which if you're in the niche and you're in the sector, whether you literally run an e-commerce site or you're an agency leader, or you just, love listening to podcasts, come along to the Recommerce event, because last year it was absolutely brilliant. Really small niche event that was absolutely fantastic. So to get onto the quick fire round. Hey, that didn't go on too long. So best advice you've ever received?
Honestly, I think it's probably, rather than agency-wise, it's probably something my dad has said years ago in terms of just don't take yourself too seriously. And I think that's helped me a lot in terms of like that agency roller coaster. If I've had a bad day, I think just having a sense of perspective about am I going to remember this in 10 years? And is it really going to be as big a deal as it feels like right now? So I think just having that perspective is really key. Merging with a US company was a bit of a disaster. There's been loads of things that, again, it's like...
Conversely, worst advice you ever received? Was it from your dad as well?
I think I've realised like my natural state with everything is kind of like to be optimistic. And I think I've realised over the years there's ways to keep that in check. I think sometimes I'm maybe too positive in a way that, again, a lot of it I wouldn't want to change, but some of it is like, okay, maybe I've just been a bit naive there. So yeah, I think that's probably my own learning rather than anyone else's fault for advice. I can't blame anyone else for that one other than myself.
What has been aside from the US merger, which is a whole other podcast, what is your biggest ever?
I'm trying to think how to answer this as well. Yeah, US would certainly be one. I think we had a start to the year a while back when we lost 3 of our 4 biggest clients. So that was pretty bad. There's a lot. There's a whole podcast in itself on these, but there's definitely a few mistakes that certainly if I could go back and do them again, I'd do things differently for sure. Yeah, it's one of those things you don't realize at the time, but actually when I reflected on it, the reason we lost those 3 clients, I think came back about 6 months earlier because we lost some really good people from our team. And I think the team that we had in place just wasn't as strong as what we had previously. Yeah, once I reflected on that, it's like actually the root cause here is we had a really strong team doing good work. And then there was quite a bit of upheaval that had changed and the client got frustrated, and rightfully so, I think, in their case. And again, for us, it's learning comes down to hire great people, treat them well, retain them. And then I think that's where the growth comes from there.
Thanks for sharing.
Kevin, thanks for joining us on this roller coaster of a podcast to talk about your roller coaster and agency life.
Yeah, thank you very, very much, Kevin. And we can actually sign off here. And I want to say that this is it for today's episode of the SEO Agency Rollercoaster podcast. Thank you, Kevin, for coming on. It has been a pleasure, and I feel like time flew by and we can keep doing this for even longer. This whirlwind adventure is brought to you by SEO Ranking, the go-to SEO tool set for over 40,000 digital agencies worldwide. If you're ready to take your agency's SEO game to the next level, be sure to join the SEO Ranking family. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more insights, laughs, and all things SEO. This is Andrew Zarudny along Chris Simmance, signing off from the SEO Agency Rollercoaster. Stay tuned for more episodes, and remember, in the world of SEO, the ride never truly ends.